Hi gang, Scott here. Welcome to In Post. Thanks for joining me today. Today's video is a live edit, live in air quotes. I'm not live streaming, but what I am doing is taking a photo I've not worked on before from my library, pressing record, and processing it from start to finish. And this is a photo I shared earlier this week in the field, which is one of the photos I captured on this trip through Big Sur. And this is at the Garapata State Beach. And it was a good midday photo. I really like the surf lines in this one. And I want to get this thing processed. And so I'm in Lightroom. This is where we'll start. And let's just dive right into it. A quick image assessment. Crop overall is looking good. I like the dark band of this sand line coming in from a corner. I don't mind this house here. This area looks like it's a little hazy. I'm not too sure about the people out here. Maybe one or maybe two at most, keeping them. We'll see about how the photo comes along if I bother to remove them, if the photo gets good enough to go the extra mile. Let's start with the basics. Over in the basic panel, I usually like landscape, but I am going to check Vivid on this one. Vivid's actually kind of flat. Adobe Standard is very flat, so we'll stick with landscape. We'll try an auto. Auto's a little warm. Let's pick a spot in the surf that should be white. That's better. It's actually pretty close to what it was with auto. Speaking of auto, we'll do an auto tone on it. And overall, this looks quite nice. It's bright. There's a nice warm, cool kind of thing going on here. Let's do some additional checks here. Let's pop texture a bit. And I'm mainly watching the rocks, a little bit in the surf. Let me take that away for a second. Before, after. Yeah, it adds a little bit into the surf. I don't want to push that too far. I like subtle things. If I really want more texture, I can always add it in later on to selected areas. Dehaze, I'm going to hold off on that. I think dehaze will work well targeted to those background hills. If I push it now, let's see, push. It really impacts the whole photo. Maybe a little bit globally might be good. Just a little. So that did bring some of the richness of the yellow sand back in. Let's stick with that. And, what about... Let's get to work on problem areas. I think the photo overall is looking pretty good. I'll come back to the sky and color in a minute. But let's deal with this problem area here. So I'm grabbing this radial, dragging it over the hills here. And the invert is set. Let's get ourselves a little more real estate here. The invert is set, so that means I'm affecting what's inside the radial. Right now it's just an exposure setting. I'll change the sliders in a moment. Luminance mask, show me the luminance, because what I want to affect is just the hills, which are the dark parts of the range. So we'll reduce what's going on in the brighter areas, tighten up on the smoothness so that's a crisper line there. Right around there is pretty good. Can clean it up with the erase brush if I need to. We'll extend that out so it picks up the tip of the rocks there. So we've got our mask set. Now we can get to work on things like dehaze, taking some haze away from that. Probably raising exposure on that a little bit, just so it shows up more. Adding some texture. This is all kind of helping to combat the haze that's in the atmosphere. And those three things, before and after, that's a nice touch, before and after. I think it's bleeding into the sand a little bit. So with the brush, I'll put that luminance mask back on. With the brush that's inside the elliptical. So this is the elliptical mask brush, not the brush tool itself. Erase, do not need the auto mask. Full flow on that. Make that brush a little bit smaller. And we'll just take it away from the beach area there, so that we're really only affecting what's in the rocks. And I may as well take things away from the sky there as well. Let's turn off that luminance. And let's do another before and after on that. Before and after. That's much nicer. That's better targeted to just those rocks, those cliffs out there. This is shaping up really nicely. I do want to tackle these people out here. Let's zoom in. And of the folks here, which ones are looking... I like the person who's right in the front. A little bit of red in the jacket. These folks are a little soft and blurry. They got some photographers out there. That's all cool. Let's grab a retouch brush. This will be job for clone, so we'll switch this over to clone. And I'll start by, let me turn off my yellow highlighter there so we can really see the tool. And we'll start with a single click right there. And let's see where it's sampled from. Yeah, kind of far out there. And if we play around, that is not a good match. We're going to delete that. And we're going to go one at a time. So we'll take person in the back, number 1. And that is a pretty good sample right there. We press the H key to turn that off. That's pretty good. We'll clean this guy up here at the bottom. Actually, we can do that right now. Oops, I had a little stray click there. Undo. Let's make that really small and just paint over that tiny bit. H key, I don't like where you sampled Lightroom, so let's maybe try around here. I'm kind of watching where I painted to see about a good blend. H key again to hide that. That's good. Okay, second person, same idea. Paint over that second person. Lightroom samples. Looks like it took the same sample point. We will adjust that one this time. And let's see here. We're going to have some cleanup to do at the base of the cliff. I'm not liking that. I either was too wide with my brush, or I need to choose a better sample point. And now I'm looking at the curve of the land here kind of matches the curve here. So let's do this brush again. Let's not get confused here. Let's just do the selected pin only. So we'll only see the one pin we're working with right now. Okay, and that's closer. But if I bring that over here a little bit more, and then I'm adjusting that position so that we get the curvature of the land looking cleaner. Let's see, around there is pretty good. H key turned off. And let's now do another little sweep through the sand. Okay. And I know that I could jump into Photoshop for this, and I'd probably be done already. Let's switch that to a heel. You know, sometimes I just don't want to make the round trip. And, you know, it's like I get lazy with one thing, but then I end up spending more time in another. But that's looking pretty clean. Let's go ahead and repeat for the same bit here. We'll take the person in the back. And it's sampled to that left, so we'll move it right. Not bad. The person on the right. Let's change that again to selected only. Adjust that a little bit. Pretty good. H key to turn it off. A little bit of cleanup on the bottom. And maybe a couple of clicks in here. That one did not sample well. Let's clean up that in there. Okay, that's better. A couple of clicks in there just to tidy that off. Zoom back out, and I think that's going to be pretty good for the quality of this photo. I mean, the photo is good. It's a solid photo. I like the image. It's not like the Call National Geographic kind of photo. So, you know, maybe I'll tidy that up toward the very end. But for working in Lightroom, that's pretty good. Let's take a look back at the colors now. Getting back into playing up this warm, cool thing. We've got the sky. Classic on the sky. We'll add a little saturation. We'll take that saturation down a little bit. Sorry, that luminance down a little bit to deepen those blues. kind of the same thing. I want to see on saturation how much of this is orange versus yellow. And I'm just kind of hovering around the sand, but I'm watching the right-hand side and seeing things are mostly orange, kind of toggling into yellow a little bit. If I take yellow and shift that a little bit toward orange, you'll notice a little bit of a shift. That's probably a little bit too strong. And then we can increase the saturation of the oranges. I'll push it really far so you can see it get, not matching what this beach really was. Not necessarily displeasing, but it certainly wasn't that orange. But just to play up that warm, cool a little bit. Before the HSL and after, definitely the bigger impact is up in the sky. Returning to accents and subjects, this rock on the right-hand side, that is really an anchor for the scene. So let's drag an elliptical on there, hovering over that. Once again, it's an exposure. We'll change that in a minute. We'll go into the luminance range mask again. Remove a lot of the highlights. I want this just to be touching the rock. Great. And let's switch that over into, say, a texture. Nice, there we go. Maybe add a little touch of clarity. And then if I do this before and after, we're going to see a couple of things change. We're going to see our hills. We're going to see this rock change. But just paying attention to the rock before and after. It's, let's say, maybe even open those shadows up ever so slightly. I'll push it really far, kind of bring it back ever so slightly. Maybe contrast. I don't like what Lightroom's doing here. When I readjust, it's kind of going back to that default mode of the way the elliptical was and showing me the darkening of exposure. That's a quirk / bug, but we can work with it. Okay, not bad. Let's stick with that. And to finish it off, I think we'll do a vignette. Finish it off with a vignette. Close that. Let's collapse that down. And in our effects area, we'll take the amount, pull that down ever so gently. Before that change, after that change, that is really nice. And so a little / key here to see where we started. Kind of flat. The colors are kind of there, but they're just not coming through. Fair amount of atmospherics here. And then after, that's looking good. All right, I'm thinking one more accentuation. We've got nice crispness on the rocks. What about a touch of crispness in the foam here, like in these little tiny fingers? Let's grab a brush, and I have a crisp stage here. Contrast and clarity. Now this is a little bit of dehaze. This is going to push it a little hard, but let's start off with trying this. Full flow, full density, full feather. Let's bring that brush size down, and let's do a sample area like through here. Just brushing that through, like that. Okay. There we go. What does that look like? Before and after. A little strong, honestly. So I think instead of changing the brush stroke, I'll just reduce the amount of these effects by roughly half. So before and after. That's nicer. That's a very subtle touch, but I like that. That is just adding a little bit of extra to the photo. I think we're going to call this one done. I think the thing that really surprised me was the global dehaze. Even though it was a small amount, there actually was a lot more haze there than I thought there was. And that let the colors start to come through. So that's another little mental thing I'll tuck away for the next time I'm working on a photo like this. And maybe it just goes to show that a midday landscape photo might not all be bad if you've got a good sky with some nice character and some good color. That'll do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you got questions, go ahead and drop them below. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.